Anyway, so what are we going to speak about today, Paula?
Oh, that's a very good question, Sarah. I think what we're talking about is being calm.
Yes, so
which is a big topic nowadays, I think. I mean, it always has been quite something with modern life, well, life in general, human beings, we get stressed about all sorts of things, but my goodness me, the last few months have really proved quite a challenge for very, very many people. And I was actually reading this morning about the effects on the working memory of the current situation, as you do at 6:30 in the morning, but still, what else is there to do? And it was really fascinating because it brought home to me how great a toll it's taking on our everyday thinking and our thought process. For example, having to plan what to do when, think about your shopping lists, because you don't have to pop to the supermarket every day or every couple of days even. So we're having to think and plan and work things out in a way that we haven't really had to before. Our routines have been completely changed. And one of the things we always tell people, don't we, when they come to us about, if they are stressed and having problems in lives, is to actually make as many things as possible routine in your life. Because if you're operating from automatic pilot, then you don't have to make the choice. You don't have to make that decision to go to the gym. It's just absolutely automatic. 5:45 on a Tuesday night, you pack up your bags and you go to the gym. Don't even think about it. It's just automatic. And of course, so much of that has just been completely blown out of the water now, hasn't it? So every single day or every single moment of every single day is, what do we do? This is a new situation. What are my routines? How am I going to do this? And of course, that puts a huge load on the working memory, because we're not able to operate unconsciously, automatically through that automatic memory system. It's more that conscious thinking. So people are getting more stressed, they're getting more tired. So it makes more sense.
Even I know you and I are very used to working like this. We've been using Skype and Zoom and what have you for years.
Yeah.
But there's only two of us, talking. So it's and we're kind of used to it and everything else. But I have noticed that when I've had bigger groups, for example, and there are more people on the screen, it's really, really exhausting, because my concentration is so divided. I'm trying to think about what am I saying, what am I teaching, then someone else is talking, and I'm looking at everyone else's reactions, and then I'm going around the group, and 2 hours normally in a training would just fly by for me, and I can do 8 hours of straight training and not feel exhausted. But working like this and having multiple people on the screen and multiple videos, and people are getting really, really tired and really exhausted.
Indeed, I remember also read something. What else am I doing at the moment?
A lot of reading these days.
A lot of reading going on. Is that the brain finds it very difficult to think about, but here is a human, here is Sarah, who I know and is a human being and is a real live person. But now I'm interacting with you in 2D on a screen, and it just sends the brain into, I don't know what's going on. I need to compute that.
Yeah. So again, even more, the brain is having to do so much more work, from that point of view. But if we just come back to, just a little kind of recap around, our understanding of the working memory, which is slightly different from other people's understanding, but just this idea that we are on a continuum, essentially, that the working memory, depending on what we're doing and how familiar the task is and how much we know, and how much we already have stored in the long-term memory, the working memory, it has it's got a load, and we try to ease that load and that kind of, having to consciously think about something, as we said, by actually having a routine, by having lots of things in the long-term memory that we can just use automatically. You don't have to think about it. But when we have to think about things, so we're in a situation, we have our long-term memory, which has varying levels as well. So we've got the short-term, long-term memory. What have we just learned? Hasn't completely embedded yet. It's not in the deep long-term and automatic. Hi, Susan. Susan Spillman is joining us this morning, which is lovely. And so we have so much going on now in the short-term, long-term memory. We're like, oh, hang on, what am I supposed to do when I'm in this situation? What am I supposed to do in this situation? And it was like before we kind of started recording, or before we pressed live, we were talking about going, and I know you're not really going out, so for you it's a little bit easier. You can make your decisions about your shopping online, so you're sitting there and you have that time. But I'm still going out to the supermarkets. And I said the other day I walked in, and because there wasn't anybody on the door, I won't mention the name of the supermarket, I just completely forgot about the hand sanitizer. It was like halfway through and I went, oh, I was thinking about something else. I was probably on the phone with somebody, because that tends to be my time to talk, is when I'm out. And Olive says, Olive's joining us too.
Oh, hi, Olive. Oh, the grounding queen.
Yes, we're going to be talking about today.
We will be talking about that later.
That whole thing of having to make, you've got lots of stuff going on in your short-term, long-term memory, things you've just learned, things that you're right, this is all brand new, we have to do this. And then also it's all about decisions, isn't it? And questions. We've got so much information coming at us, a lot of it conflicting, so you're thinking, well, do I do this or do I do that? What do I believe? So there is a huge amount going on inside people's working memories.
Huge, absolutely huge. And we've actually ventured out because of my age. We're taking risk very seriously. And we did venture out last week to our local shopping centre. It's an outdoor sort of pedestrianised thing, so it's quite safe. It wasn't an indoor one. But it was like walking onto a movie set. I was just not prepared for it. It was.
Was this the first time you'd been out?
It was the first time Martin and I had actually been, because we're very blessed with where we live. We've got country walks, we've got parks, we've got a house and garden and stuff. We're very, very blessed. But we'd actually ventured out to other human beings, in the real world. And it was very strange, very strange and very unsettling. Yeah. And it just didn't feel like reality. And there was these, signs and these feet on the floor. And, oh, we've got to keep left. And oh no, that time was 2 meters away. And
I'm quite used to that now, because
but it's become your routine. And then this is the thing: when you first encounter new realities, there's a huge load of of processing that the brain needs to do, which just adds to the stress. So if people are feeling strange, and people have been reported feeling quite dizzy and quite sick and quite confused and conflicted, not sleeping, diet's gone a bit up the creek, all sorts of things that we're experiencing are simply because of this whole completely new situation that we find ourselves in.
Yes, and Olive was saying she's even found driving really odd.
Oh, really? Yes.
And again, I think if that's not been out for a while and then you kind of go out, I know for me initially it was like being in some post-apocalyptic, as you said, like movie set, because there were so few cars and so few people, and you're thinking, where is everyone? And then a couple of weeks later I had to go actually to Dublin, and I was thinking, oh, there's so many people out, and then and actually that can become quite unnerving when there's so many people. Because we're being told to distance, and we keep being told social distancing, and there is a reason why they repeat the messages, isn't it? It is to embed it.
Yes, and I mean the psychologically, and of course the UK did such a good job about the stay home, stay indoors, and now they're having to re-educate people into actually you can start going out, and of course there's a lot of fear there. Particularly, at my age, I don't think we're going to take any decisions to go out and change what we've been doing. And
I remember years ago reading a book by two guys, Baumeister and Tierney, with the two surnames. I can't think of their Roy Baumeister and John Tierney. That's it. And it was a book.
That's impressive.
Oh, I've mentioned it quite a few times. It's quite embedded, and it really struck me what I read. And actually, they did a talk about it as well that I had seen. It really made so much sense to me, because what they were talking about was willpower, and willpower is essentially, you've made a decision to do something, so it's then you're kind of going in a particular direction, and then you're having to control yourself and self-regulate in order to keep on track. And of course, part of that is making choices and decisions. And actually, what they basically use the analogy that your willpower is essentially like a battery. So you're not born with lots of willpower. I mean, it's a muscle and it's something you can exercise and you can learn to expand, but essentially So think about it. When you're up in the morning and you've made a decision and you're going to eat well that day and you're going to exercise, and you've made those choices and they're out of your head, you're not having to think about it. And then as the day goes on, the more decisions you have to make, particularly if they're quite critical decisions, if they're really important decisions, basically what we're doing is we are, we're running the battery down.
Yeah.
So it explained to me that why at the time when I read the book, my children were very young, and so they were going to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock. That's a long time ago now for me. And then they're now tucking me in bed and doing what my older son is anyway. He's at night and he's still up till God knows what time. Like I'm in bed before them. And it explained why at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night my patience had completely disappeared at that point. And I thought, well, that makes sense, because throughout the day I'm busy, I'm making decisions, I'm seeing clients, I've got my kids, I've got the house, all of these things, and essentially your willpower, that self-control and everything else, is being depleted. So they also talk about something called decision fatigue. So the more decisions you have to make, again, you're depleting your willpower and your ability to think clearly. And so we are having to make a lot of choices at the moment, a lot of decisions.
Absolutely. And of course, I'm on the other side of that, because in fact, my decisions have become fewer and fewer and fewer, because we've decided to, play it safe and, not take those risks. I'm not juggling so many things in my life. Things have become a lot more peaceful, if you like. So far fewer decisions. So in fact, for me, it's actually been quite a relaxation. That fear of missing out, FOMO, isn't it? Just doesn't occur to me anymore.
That's a very good point, actually, Paula. Yeah, I'm sure for a lot of people, everyone knows, well, everyone's at home. No one's going on holiday. There's no parties. There's no,
no movies to decide what to see.
We're going to be opening up next week, so we'll see what happens. There, but again, it's that decision. Well, what do we do? And my husband and I often have this comment, well, what are we going to do for the rest of the summer? And it's like, I don't know. I said, we can't make any decisions yet. And Lindsay's saying here, by the weekend, she goes, he doesn't want to make any decisions.
Yes.
Absolutely. Because when you make, and this is what we want to talk about this morning, is about, we're going to come back to our lovely this is our pet subject at the moment, is the working memory. Because it's so crucial to understand that, what's actually happening, to us and inside of us, is having a huge impact on our mental health, and particularly around stress. And of course, our kind of main focus is to help children, but we know that to help children, we have to help the parents, all the teachers.
Absolutely.
This is everybody's in this, I won't say the same boat, but we're all in the same storm.
Yeah, and obviously there are some people who already have got so much stress going on in their lives for all sorts of reasons, already, the capacity to think through that clearly was at, full capacity there. And then add on these, what you could call, they're not little stresses, but those extra things about the hand sanitizer, the risk, when I got my children, I'm worried about them and going back to school, and should I let them back to, these are huge decisions and huge choices that people are on and already. And then some people are so worried about what happens when the furlough ends and the money runs out and blah, 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 blah. So many really, really underlying serious issues. And then, the extra added things, the lockdown. And then the release of lockdown, because now we've all got used to one way, and then, oh no, actually we're going to do something different now.
And as you were saying, the messages were so well delivered.
Yes.
In terms of using fear to keep us in line and to keep us, in check, and to make sure that we were, yes, for good reason, to keep us as safe and other people as safe as possible. And now it's like, well, am I safe to do such and such? That's a huge question to go. Is it safe? To go out. I was recently out. I had to get my car repaired, so I had to go out. And the kids decided to come with me, and we were inside. And it was an outdoor shopping outlet, and it was quite incredible because we were in a couple of shops that didn't seem to be monitoring anybody. Lots of people were in, and I started to get actually quite anxious with people standing close to me. And I thought, this is really unlike me. This is not. you know, I thought, wow, that's really well done. They really, really, you know, that fear. So yes, absolutely. There's sort of, yes, it's okay to go out, but be careful, you know, and it's all of that.
And
so
that is confusing, isn't it? It takes a huge toll.
Because then your brain is going, is it okay? What do I do? And
Yeah.
now it's personal responsibility time in Ireland. It's like, right, it's up to you. Now it's over to you.
Yes.
You're now in charge. So yes, having to make choices and decisions is very, very tough. And of course, then we've got all the little people who have never been through anything really in their lives maybe before that would give them that sense of, we'll get through it. Okay, it's tough now, but on the other side of this. So young children, and I do have, you know, a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I have seen it's quite different between the two because that's quite a substantial age gap in terms of their mind and how they see the world and their understanding of the world. But I have definitely seen, you know, there is a lot of fear there that even if we're trying to not play it down, but just not talk about it all the time, it's still permeating through. So a big question is, you know, what's going to happen when the children do all go back to school here? You know, what are teachers going to face? You know, teachers got their own anxiety and their own stress to deal with. They've got children coming in. Parents, you know, will be anxious and worried. You know, so what can we do? I suppose, and
that is the question. Yes.
So we have some techniques and processes that. Well, I was introduced them by Olive, so thank you to Olive, and I know that
yes, thank you, Olive. Yes.
And we have talked about them before, but we wanted to talk about it specifically around just to recognize that when the working memory is overloaded, when we've got so much going on, this is a really important skill really to develop. And I know that for me personally, this is how I have got through this. It is through these processes, and they're very simple, but don't be deceived by how simple they are. They're incredibly powerful. And the beauty of it is you don't have to analyze it too much. You don't have to analyze your thoughts and why am I thinking this? You just have to pay attention, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I've meditated for many, many, many years. And this one really, I thought, oh gosh, because you can do it and it can be up to 10 minutes maybe, but you can do it in sort of, you know, 1 minute, even 30 seconds. And you think it's so fast. Yeah. It can work so quickly, and it's very simple, and you can do it anywhere. You don't have to sort of be sitting in a quiet place with you.
You can be standing
you can be standing in the supermarket queue. Yes, standing in the supermarket queue, wherever you are. It could be driving, you know, where you're sort of stuck sitting at the traffic lights. You're beginning to feel a bit stressed, or in a traffic jam. You're feeling a bit stressed. Anywhere you can do this safely, because you can even do it with your eyes open.
Absolutely. I mean, I frequently. You know, do this with my eyes open, because it is when I'm out and about, or when something is happening, and it's not a meditation. It is
exactly.
I kind of heard a great description, which is it's like a little reset. It's like a little body reset.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really lovely way of describing it. So if you want to just have a quick reset, so if you think about it, when you're stressed, you're releasing certain chemicals and hormones in your body. If you don't let go of that stress, those hormones just keep building. The stress then keeps building, and you end up in a bit of a loop as well. So just being able to just bring all of that down, even if it's only for a minute or 2 minutes, just giving your body that experience of just coming back to balance is so important. And you know, then we included the work from you know, HeartMath through MBIT, which is multiple brain integration technique. Bit of a mouthful, try saying that when you heard. But this idea of balanced breathing, you know, and I know breathing is often used in meditation, it's often used in yoga and lots of practices. To me, though, this is the simplest one, because it's not, you know, you don't have to think too hard about it. So everything that's simple is great, because you're not having to learn something that's so complicated, lots of steps. This is very, 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 very easy. So shall we do some balanced breathing, Paula? And then you can take us through the grounding.
I think yes. So we're going to, just checking, folks. Are we going to do just a very simple same in, same out, or the holding? Yeah, okay, because there are so many different breathing techniques.
Yeah, no, this is just the balanced breathing. Just
the balanced breathing, okay.
And what really sold me, I suppose, on this was when I understood why it worked. Once
do you want to explain a little bit why it works first?
A little bit why it works. So we have inside our bodies something called an autonomic nervous system, and the ANS has two subsystems, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And I think of them as a continuum, essentially. So this end of the continuum is your sympathetic system. That's being alert, being awake, being aware of what's going on. And on your parasympathetic system, you're relaxed, you're kind of withdrawing, you're kind of more sleepy, that side of things. We obviously need both. And what I didn't realize was actually when we breathe, our in-breath actually activates our sympathetic system, being awake, alert, and our out-breath, our exhale, actually triggers the parasympathetic system. Therefore, if you're doing a balanced breath, you're breathing in for the same count as out, you actually come into the middle of this continuum, you are coming in to balance. A lot of people, when they're stressed, and if you're watching this and you have actually been feeling quite stressed, it's good to notice this, is just notice where is your breathing? Where are you breathing from? What's the rate of your breathing? Some people, when they get very stressed, hold their breath. Big and breath in, and then you hold it.
Very common. Just keeping it up there at the top too, and the shoulders.
Shoulders go up.
A lot of the shoulders up, and that is kind of, or shoulders in like that.
And you're breathing from the top of your lungs. You're not even using the entire of your breath. You're just using maybe the top third of your lungs. So you're not getting a full breath. You're not getting all the oxygen into your body. And oh gosh, even just doing that there makes me feel.
I was just going to say, just having raised my shoulders like that into panic, I'm feeling quite dizzy and uncomfortable, and
we had done our grounding before.
Not actually thinking, my brain just went into a bit of a fog for a moment as well. So
your body is taking over. This is nothing to do with.
And then the body, of course, the body goes into like that, so it sends a message to the brain: something bad is happening. You've got reason to feel, oh my goodness. And so yes, the hormones are beginning to go round, you're racing, the heart's racing a little bit more, so that the physical body can send a message to the brain as much as the brain can send a
well, in fact, it's 80% of the messages go up, only 20 go down from the brain.
Okay,
so our body is actually communicating even more with our mind, than the other way around. So that whole kind of, anxiety and stress, if you pay attention to breathing, you will start to see your patterns in terms of your breathing patterns. So stress tends to make us take in more in breaths and fewer out breaths, or holding our breath, which is, of course, if you're holding your breath, your body thinks you're dying, so it'll go into panic. It'll make you be more alert and more stressed. So again, that cycle. So I don't know, I have a teenager, and I call this the teenage breath, which is when you hear people do this. Well, and everything comes. But of course, what the body is doing is actually doing more of an exhale, a longer exhale, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It probably means that that the body's trying to bring itself more into the parasympathetic. But of course, if you're breathing out more than you're breathing in, and those long, big sighs and everything else, well, you start to feel a bit.
That's going to deplete your energy, isn't it? Because you do get that automatic reaction of the big sigh, don't you? When you are sort of, and it'll suddenly come upon you. Sometimes you don't know why. Why am I sighing that deep sigh?
We'll probably do it when we press the button to turn off. We go, right.
We do it because I think I've been holding my breath while you're with you. Sort of, are we going to work it? Are we going to?
So our breathing, again, very unconscious. We're not normally noticing how, we're breathing all the time. Thank goodness we don't have to think about it. But just when you're feeling stressed, I always say to people, okay, when you're stressed, notice your breathing. Just notice what you're doing. And invariably, when we're stressed, it tends to be short breaths or holding our breath. And then I'll say, it's quite interesting because when we're about to do something that we know we have to kind of gird our loins for, we have to kind of raise our energy, we tend to go, right, it's a big deep breath in, a very short breath out, and that's a natural automatic behavior. Whereas, yeah, absolutely, when we've been through something and we've been in that state afterwards, we're like, the breathing, we're doing it anyway, if we start paying attention to it, we'll notice actually what's happening to our breathing. And this is really, really important when it comes to actually stress and then reducing our stress levels. So a very, very simple breathing technique is essentially the same breath in and out. So if you're going to breathe in for 4, you breathe out for 4, or in for 5, out for 5, or in for 6, out for 6, whatever you can do. Some people who are maybe more athletic and have bigger lung capacities can maybe do a bigger breath in and out. It really doesn't matter as long as it's balanced. So I was taught in through the nose, out through the mouth, but from what I understand, actually in through the nose, out through the nose is slightly better.
Yes, I think Olive has done a lot of work on nose breathing.
So in fact, using the nose is much safer. It's better for us. It's healthier for us. So we'll just do a balanced breath. So it's literally, and I can't talk and breathe at the same time. So we'll just assume everyone can count. So we'll just do it in breath for 5 and out for 5. Another breath in. And you can continue doing that balanced breathing as you're watching us. So just, I say, always imagine it's like a wave. So as you're breathing in, and as soon as you get to the top of that wave, you're not going to hold your breath. You're immediately going to release it. You're going to breathe out. And then as soon as you get to the bottom, now I'm a bit stuffy, so it's a little bit harder for me to breathe through my nose. Lovely hay fever. And then as soon as you get to the bottom of that wave, the in-breath then starts again. So I just imagine it's a very gentle, wave action, the breathing of the in and the out. So how are you feeling, Paula? Even just
it was interesting. As soon as I just started to do the breathing in and the breathing out, I was so much more aware of the birds singing outside my window, and sort of the sound became a lot clearer, because I suppose because my body's used to it. My body, because I've done this quite a lot, it just automatically goes into that mind clearing space. So therefore the thoughts about what are we going to say, what are we talking about, how's it going, who's online, who's what, all that kind of chatter that's in your head, I started the breathing and it just went, and I was just focusing on the bird song. It's really quite,
it's remarkable. It is such a remarkable, it's such an easy thing to do. And of course then we include the grounding, we do the two together.
Yes.
So do you want to explain a little bit about grounding?
Just a point there, because sometimes people find it quite hard to begin with an in-breath. So sometimes I've had people who find it really difficult, and the in-breath tends to still come from up there, rather, because they're not really in contact with the deeper part. So sometimes what I've done is start with a big out breath.
Okay.
So to start, with and starting with the focus on the out breath and then the in breath, but play around with it with yourselves, and see what works for you.
Absolutely. We're not dictating to anyone exactly how they should be breathing.
And Olive had a lovely idea for children. Do you remember? It was, the little bubble blowing things, because often children don't get that deep breathing. For children, it's often take a deep breath, and it's like that. The shoulders are right up there. So, and Olive got them to blow bubbles, and that starts to activate that deeper breathing.
It's a longer breath out. So particularly if you're very stressed, actually you can start with an in for 4 and out for 6.
Yes.
Then so you can even imagine, or you're imagining you're blowing out birthday candles.
Yeah.
Anything like that. So yeah, absolutely. But that's kind of harder to do if you're through your nose. That's the only thing.
Yes.
The mouth breathing. But it really doesn't matter, to be honest. You just want to find a rhythm that when you're standing in a queue, or you're starting to feel, your child is spending 6 hours doing 20 minutes of homework, or whatever's been going on, to just in that moment, what do you do? And for me personally, grounding and breathing have become my go-to. Absolutely. The minute my brain starts to go, there's so much going on and there's so much to decide, and I can feel the stress levels rising, and like you, because I've been doing it for so long, I'm much more aware of it, is to go, okay, look, and how often do people say, just breathe?
Yes.
Just breathe, take a breath. And this is how, this is the how to in terms of breathing, is to do that balanced breath. And we end up in what's called coherence. So the head and the body actually start to communicate better with each other. Things are flowing, and we can start to reduce that working memory overload as well, because a lot of negative self-talk starts to disappear. You know, we just bring it back to, okay, what's happening right here, right now. And for most of us, we are safe. In this moment, we are safe. There's nothing going on. Now, of course, if you're in a dangerous situation, this isn't going to work, because your body's going to take over and naturally protect you.
Sure.
But generally, most of what we're concerned about and worried about is beyond our walls. It's beyond our even right now. It's something that could be in the future. So it just brings us back to the present moment, just grounds us, you know, centers us. And then when we use the grounding process as well of imagining we're connected into the earth, we've got another route, pun intended, another route to actually calming the body. And this is what we want to do, because a lot of people think that being stressed means that, you know, well, it shows that this is important. It shows that we care. It shows that, you know, well, we're taking this seriously. It's like, yes, you can do those things without being overly stressed. The stress doesn't actually help us. It can, you know, have an impact on our immune systems. It you know, our mental health obviously is vitally important at this time. So just a very, very simple and powerful technique. Okay, so Paula, why don't you take us through then?
I'll take you through grounding. So it actually works better with the first time you did if you're standing up. So if you feel to stand up, please feel free to stand up. If you want to do it sitting down in a chair. If you can just slip off your shoes, that would be fantastic. And your feet are firmly on the ground. Okay. So if you want to close your eyes at any point while I'm talking, I probably will close my eyes at some point. If you want to keep them open, that's absolutely fine as well. It works with your eyes open too. So just be aware of your breathing, as Sarah said, and just get yourself into a bit of a rhythm. Good. Notice where your breathing is coming from. Can you establish that in and out rhythm? Good. Now I'd just like you to put your attention on the top of your head. Just be aware of the top of your head. And then we're going to go down through the body. Just be aware of your face, muscles. Maybe relax your jaw. Relax any tension in your forehead, around your eyes, your neck, your shoulders. Just be aware of your arms, your hands. They might be feeling a bit heavier now. About your chest. And then down through your tummy, your hips, your legs, your knees, your calves, your heels, into your feet. So your attention is now on your feet. So we're going to take a big breath in and then go down to our feet. And your attention as you breathe out will go down through your body to your feet. Good, just one more deep breath in and out, focusing on your feet. And be aware of your toes against the floor, heels, the balls of your feet. Just get yourself balanced. If you're standing, just get that even balance of your feet against the floor. Good. Right, now, what we're going to do is to start imagining that from the soles of your feet, you're going to send out roots. Those roots are going to come from the soles of your feet and go down, down, down through the earth, through the floor, through the earth. Imagine them just going down through the earth's crust. Even if you're in an apartment block, it doesn't matter. Just imagine that those roots are going down, down, down into the earth, getting thicker and wider and stronger as they go. A whole network of roots supporting you, going down, 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 deep into the earth's crust. Wonderful. Now take a deep breath in. Deep breath out, and just imagine those roots even deeper, even wider, securing you to the ground. And now I'd like you to imagine that from deep, deep inside the earth, energy is going to power up through those roots as you breathe in. So on your next breath in, imagine up from the center of the earth comes that beautiful earth energy. You might want to have a color, you might just want to think it's happening. If you see something great, if you don't, that's fine. Just think that it's happening. The energy is coming up from the center of the earth, up through your roots, up through your feet. And it's going to clean and clear and energize as it comes up through your feet, your heels, your calves, your knees, your legs, your tummy, chest, up into your heart area. Good. And then it's going to go back down again into the earth. As you breathe out, it's going to go down, 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 and then through the roots. I have up roots and down roots myself, so through your down roots, all the tiredness, the fatigue, the exhaustion, all the thoughts that are scrambling around inside your brain are going to be taken down through your down roots. Okay, so you now have a loop coming up from the center of the earth, cleaning and clearing as it comes through your body, energizing every cell in your body, and then taking all the unwanted stuff you no longer need to hold on to, down, 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 down again into the earth for that energy to be recycled. So I'm going to leave you now to take a couple of deep breaths yourself and imagine that loop happening in your own way. Just one more. Good. And just twiddle your fingers, twiddle your toes, and release your roots. Or maybe keep them with you.
I'm going to keep mine.
I think I usually keep mine actually. I was just taking my foot off the ground, but I thought, no, I want my roots with me actually. Yes.
No, we can keep them. We can stay grounded. We can stay grounded as long as possible. Yeah. And another little tip is that just to notice where in your body do you tend to hold your stress.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do we notice our breathing, but maybe some people hold their stress in their head, some people it's in their neck and shoulders, some people it's more in the heart area, the solar plexus, or most commonplace is actually the stomach. You know.
Oh yes, that's stomach churning.
Stomach churning. So as you're doing the roots and the breathing, and as you breathe out, to just imagine that's just energy and it's just releasing, and you're just clearing through that space as well. Mm-hmm. So they're really good they're physical indicators to notice. Okay, your breathing's nice and relaxed, and your body actually is nice and relaxed as well. You've actually released any of that tension and stress in the body. And as I said, even if you just do this for a couple of minutes throughout the day, you are resetting your body, you know, and it's just becomes easier to notice when you're not grounded.
Yes, I remember when I was a teacher, and when I was a head teacher, I didn't know about grounding because I learnt about the roots from Olive, but I knew from NLP, we mentioned NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, that your inner state was really important. And I did Tai Chi for a while. I think the martial arts, a lot of it is to do with centering. And I done bits of yoga and breathing and centering and just being really aware of the energy that's in your body and in other people's. And so when I was a teacher, oh my goodness, because you've got 30 little people going around, and we talk about the decisions that you make. You know, as a teacher, you're making. Somebody did some research on it. They're you know, like every second you're making a decision about something. Your brain is calculating. You're looking at the body language of 30 people and you're responding. You're in incredible high alert all the time. And so for me, standing in a classroom, it was quite remarkable. From time to time, I would literally just stand and breathe and just focus on my own body. And amazingly, when I did that, it had such a calming effect on the entire class. Well, perhaps not the entire class, but I had to work a bit harder on one or two. But it was absolutely incredible. And as a teacher, you just need those moments, because your energy is going out to so many other little people, to come back to yourself, to be aware of, oh, right, no, I am starting to tense. I can let that go. I can just breathe, and I can just stand with my arms, because sometimes we start standing, don't we, in quite a sort of stressed way, or we're clenching our fists, or, oh yes, that one. So it does take some practice, but just by standing, releasing your arms by your side with your feet firmly on the ground and breathing, you can have a huge effect, not only on yourself, but actually on the people around you. And I did that as a head teacher on assembly, when children were coming into assembly. Well, they were trained to come in, in science and stuff, but I would be standing there really calm, really peaceful, not really interacting with anybody, with my arms down by my side, and it just has such a calming effect, even on kind of hundreds of people.
And I've spoken many times about my wonderful school that I was allowed in many years ago.
Oh yes, Shea.
School, in Rathwire, and the minute they introduced grounding, he said the whole school changed. So this was the teachers doing it, the students doing it, parents coming in saying, what is this grounding thing? Children were doing it outside of the school. And I spoke to him recently because I was just wondering how he was getting on and what were his plans for going back. And he said number one priority, he said grounding. He said when all those kids come back into school, he said we are going to be using grounding the whole time. He said, well, grounding is going to be the key to bring everybody back to the present moment, to feel safe, to be calm, because not only is the working memory obviously working all the time, but if you're sitting in a learning environment, you cannot learn if your brain is on high alert. It's not designed to do the two things. We're not designed to be on high alert and hyper vigilant and take information in. It doesn't work that way. So it's such huge benefits, in every single way. And there really isn't. I can't think of something that grounding doesn't help with. To be honest.
No, because I say it's helped with everything from that being impatient in a queue to driving, the traffic jam, just things that come that you think, do you know what I can just send that down to my roots. I don't need that inside me anymore. So out comes some positive energy, clear that out, send it down. And it's just that kind of, it's good housekeeping.
It is. I call it energetic hygiene.
That's a good way of putting it. It's just, I don't need this nonsense inside my body. I do not need it. I do not need to be, life is hard enough without being cluttered up with all this stuff. Just give me a way of
just coming back, being balanced, being centered, being grounded,
being me. And calm. I love that moment, that thing you just said, which is just, at this moment in time, I'm alive, I'm safe. What a beautiful moment this moment is.
This is all we have, is actually right now. We don't have anything else. Nothing else is real. It's a little bit philosophical, but it's true.
Just a bit, but I mean, it is all the clutter in the brain is about the past and is about the future. It's not about the now. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I wish things were like the way they were, and what are things going to be like? And it's like, well, we don't know. And that uncertainty and that not knowing and not having that information sets up what's called an open loop, and an open loop can cause anxiety because the brain is trying to fill it in, and again, that huge overload in the working memory causes a lot of stress. So just having a physical way in to calm the body and calm the mind,
and also
analyzing it is so powerful.
It really is. And what you just said there about these sorts of, what's it going to be like? I should have, and what I should have done, and what I could have done. So these negative automatic thoughts that just drift in, well, not drift in, flood in sometimes. This talk inside your head, and I think you're going to share with us a technique for how can we clear that stuff.
Oh, I love this technique. And again, Antoine Geyser
art geyser.
For these wonderful processes, because again, and children love this, by the way, absolutely love doing this. So yeah, if you and of course we are not our thoughts. I think a lot of people think, well, I have a thought, what can I do about it? I'm not in charge of it. And the reality is actually we are, but the first part of it is the awareness. You know, we have about 60,000 thoughts a day, and the depressing thing is 95 to 99% of them are the same thoughts. We're ruminating, we're going around in circles trying to figure something out, and that's not a particularly positive state to be in, particularly if they're negative thoughts going round and round and round. And thanks, Olive. Olive is popping off, so lovely to have her here.
Oh, Gerald, thank you so much.
So those thoughts are just becoming aware of, oh, hang on a minute, what am I thinking? And normally our thoughts are not about what's happening right now. They're normally the past or the future. Yeah. So just becoming aware of, oh, hang on, what's that? And the reality is just having that instant awareness also brings us into the present moment as well, which is great. So not only do we have our own thoughts going around, but of course we've got the news coming in. We're very close proximity now to our family and the people we're at home with if you're not on your own. And then when we're out in the world, we've got everybody else's anxiety and everything else, and that's all we're picking up on, all of that. So not only have we got our own energy, whether it's positive or negative, running through our body, we're actually picking up on what's going on around us as well, and that kind of collective energy. So for some people, and the term sensitive is very used, you're very sensitive to others, you're very sensitive to everything. And that's not a bad thing, apart from the fact that if you don't know what to do with it, because think of yourself as a magnet, if you're a very sensitive magnet, you're pulling everything at you, and you're carrying everything that's going on around you, and you're literally got this weight surrounding you that probably stops you from feeling like you can breathe, or that you have enough space. So a fantastic technique is the lake and the magnet. So will I just take you through rather than explain it? I think it's probably
take us through, and then we
okay. So once you're grounded and you're doing your balanced breath, you just bring yourself back into your body. Just tune into the space around your body. Just think about arm's length around you. Think of a U-shaped bubble around you. And just imagine in that space how much of the energy that's in there belongs to you and how much is actually everybody else's, or what's going on around you. And for most people, it's quite high. There's quite a high percentage of other people's stuff and other people's worries and other people's beliefs and all the stuff that we're kind of exposed to on a daily basis. And again, if you're in a classroom and you've got 30 odd people in the room, wow, that's a lot of other people's energy to be sitting in. So once you've got your number, and I've yet to meet someone who's down to zero, that it's all theirs. Normally it's something between 1 and 100. Is to just think about, how does that feel? How does that energy that you're carrying that doesn't belong to you, how does that feel? What's it like? You may love the people that you're worrying about, but it's still their energy. You're still worried about them. It's not your stuff, it's theirs. You might not like them. There might be somebody who's driving you nuts at work or driving you nuts in the family. It's not you, it's them. You're thinking about them, therefore it's their energy. So this is a really simple way of just releasing this. So I want you to imagine now, somewhere in relation to where you're sitting, outside of that space, there's a beautiful, calm, serene lake. And then imagine at the deepest part of the lake, there's a magnet. And this magnet's job is to very gently and very easily, so you're not going to have to do it, the magnet's doing the work, it's going to pull out of your energy field anything that doesn't belong to you. Very gently got to pull that energy through the water, through the magnet. It's going to become cleaned and filtered and just recycled as neutral energy, or sent back to whoever it belongs to, because they need it, you don't. And I just find it really useful if there's a little bit of resistance and letting go. Some people think, oh, I can't let go. It's going to, what kind of person will I be if I'm not worrying about everybody and everything? Well, you'll be a calm person. That would be the bottom line. And you'll be in a better position actually to help, because you'll be more secure and stronger within yourself. But if you're struggling, if there's any blocks, any barriers at all, I just find it really useful in my mind to just say, let it go. Just let it go. You don't have to know whose it is, what it's about. If it's not yours, let it go. As you feel that energy just disappearing from around your body, just notice how much lighter you feel. Just notice how much more space there is around you to breathe. And now I do a shortcut, which is when I'm thinking about something, having set my lake up and I know where my lake is, and wherever in the house I am, I have a lake. I just say, stick it in the lake. Just let it go. Just let the lake take it, let the magnet take it, let it clean it and filter it, and just become recycled. Neutral energy. So once we've allowed those things to just be further away from us, smaller, and have disappeared, just do a check-in now in your body and just notice, how are you feeling? How's the space around you? So there's lots of different ways you can let go of things, aren't there?
Oh, there are, and sometimes I've used. I love the lake and the magnet. Sometimes I've used a huge, big industrial magnet when I was particularly stressed. Imagining this great big industrial magnet in front of me, one in front of me, and then I kind of imagine it like drawing out. Like a magnet draws iron filings to itself, all the thoughts and the negative, and sometimes just things that people have said to me that can be so damaging, even from way back in the past. Just thoughts that people have said, oh really, what you think you could, I don't know, whatever it is, just thoughts or feelings or emotions. And one thing Art Geiser suggests is that if you just have a thing, you don't know quite what it is that you're getting rid of, he says you just imagine like a block, like a wooden block that symbolizes the thought or the emotion or the feeling, whatever it is, the other person, the worry, and you just send that block out. So I have the industrial magnet in front of me, one a great industrial magnet behind me, one on top of it. Lots to clear. But it's and I think it's what you said before, it's realizing that the thoughts, what are thoughts? Neuroscience doesn't really know what they are or where they come from, how the unconscious produces them, and they are not you. No. You can actually just decide, is that a helpful thought or is it not a helpful thought? And the not helpful thought, absolutely into that lake. And that magnet is ready to take that energy away deep.
And again, children love this. Sometimes you might imagine putting all the negative thoughts and those feelings into a rocket, and then you send them up to the sun and it explodes into the sun, and it's gone and it's disappeared. Or in Shay has a particular favorite. He gets children to imagine, that if something's happened to them that morning or the day before that they're still worried about, that they imagine it's on a piece of paper, and then they put a big red X through it, and then they either shred it or crumple it up, and they just allow that to just tumble down through their body and through their feet and out into the earth, and it just disappears into the earth. It really doesn't matter. You can even ask the child, well, what would you like to do with that?
Absolutely. And I think I didn't know about grounding or the lake and the magnets when I was teaching. I did know from your NLP that your thoughts are not you, and you can get rid of them. I think possibly one of the most powerful things I could give to children who are really struggling was the idea that you can actually turn those thoughts down or off, or you can just say, cheerio, I don't need you right now. You might have been useful at one point in my life, but I really don't need you now, bye bye. And then the children can come up with all sorts of different ways to sort of picture thoughts coming in and deciding, do I want this one or don't I? And I can get rid of that one. So the children can be very, very inventive in the way that they can.
And it's all about empowerment, because what you're doing is giving people tools, and children in particular will really need this, and everybody's going to need this.
Oh my word.
We really can't emphasize this enough, because we're going to have a whole set of different experiences. Children would have had very different experiences. Some will have hated being at home, that school was maybe the safe place. And so they've got a lot of that baggage, you know, because they're now coming, you know, out from what was very stressful for them into sort of, and then of course they're dealing with everyone else's stress, so it may not be as feel as safe as it was before. Then you've got children who hated being at school. Maybe school wasn't the safe place for them, and now they've been at home and they've had their parents there and their pets. I mean, there's a lot of talk about dogs are going to have a lot of anxiety. I mean, it's amazing. We talk about dogs more than we talk about children. You know, they're going to have anxiety because they're so used to having the family. They're being walked a million times a day. Especially when we had our 2K rule, that was as far as we could go. That dog was out.
Yes.
Then you think the only place we could go was locally. You know, and if you think about that, you know, we become so used to having these people around us and being safe and everything else, and we're in the walls, going out. You know, there's going to be that anxiety. There's going to be the children. I know not here because all schools and childcare services stopped, but you know, who were used to being the only ones in the classroom and having the teachers to themselves and not very many kids around. So there's going to be so many different combinations, and some people have had a wonderful time and they're feeling guilty because they've had a great time on this, you know, on lockdown. And it's okay to have had a whatever experience people have had, they've had. It's not about feeling resentful or feeling guilty, you know, towards that, to really, and it's just a way of being present and being in our own bodies and really looking after ourselves and not worrying so much about what everyone else is experiencing, and giving each individual person in the classroom or at home or in the family, or you know, whoever you are watching this, to give you that experience of having that control. These thoughts are not controlling me, I can control them. This emotion is not controlling me, I can control it. You know, to have that way in really, for me, it totally radically changed my entire coaching practice and my training practice.
Yes, to have that, those strategies for the choice, to make those choices, because although in NLP we know about it, we didn't have really simple techniques and strategies, really simple. The idea that you can just send your thought out to the lake of the magnet is simplicity itself.
I have a very large lake. Does a really good job.
Mind you, I did have one child who it wasn't enough. It really wasn't enough, and he needed to do a huge, great explosion. He sort of stuffed all those horrible thoughts that he'd been having, and that it needed to be a mega explosion. So, but children are very inventive in coming up with ideas.
They are. So we're coming to the end of our hour. That was, I hope.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a great time, I have to say. Always do. We natter on, and we always learn something new from each other as well. It's always quite interesting.
We just never stop. No. Hopefully something useful comes out of it.
Yes, well, hopefully these have been really useful. And obviously, you know, our main aim is to help people to be able to learn more effectively and things like that. But at the moment, you know, school is kind of winding down. So it's more about actually, as we're gearing down, as we're kind of going down into kind of the summer holiday, whatever that's going to be, and then going back up again, whatever's going on for anyone, you know, going back to work, not going back to work, it really doesn't matter. It's in this moment right now to bring yourself back to this right here. What's happening right here? For most of us, we are safe. We are okay. And to just keep reminding ourselves that and that will really help in terms of not just our mental health, but our physical health as well. I've used it the whole way through this, I have to say.
Ooh, yes.
You know, really the saving grace in all this. So we've hit 10 o'clock, which is
we've hit 10 o'clock. Oh, well, thank you everybody who's joined us live, and thank you to everybody who's going to listen to us in the future.
Absolutely. Paula, and as always, thank you, and we'll...
Oh, thank you, Sarah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.